So Mrs. Pettersen is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here today. I'm grateful that you all are hosting this opportunity to talk about such an important issue. And want to address, Mr. Reisman, you talk about how we need to have, it is helpful if we have a regulatory framework at the federal level, and we could have some complementary state laws as well. But I'm really worried because we worked in a bipartisan way to provide a framework to try to continue to move forward here in Congress. We aren't known for being the most efficient body in government, and our inability to come together to produce a regulatory framework on AI is concerning when I look at the risks that are involved. There's great opportunity for efficiency and a lot of promise in all of the different sectors. But I'm especially worried in the financial sector and the vulnerabilities that we have. We know that the risks that that we're facing are going to get exponentially worse with AI. Already 50% of fraud has been identified as using AI. 92% of the financial institutions surveyed indicate that fraudsters are using generative AI. And 44% of financial professors report that deepfakes are used in fraudulent schemes. And so when I think about the impact to our financial system and what the gaps that we're leaving here, what are the most important steps? And this is opening up for all of you. How do we provide to ensure that we don't have the gaps in supporting our smaller financial systems, so our smaller banks, making sure that they have access to the technology, and what would you recommend on providing that framework and those guardrails at the federal level? That's a lot to ask, so don't feel the pressure, but if anyone wants to add on just some of the key things that we need to be thinking about right now.
I'll start. Okay. So I definitely think the conversation has centered around really advancing national data privacy standards, and I think that conversation, as someone has already mentioned, will sort of ring in the beast of data that is actually fueling these systems. So if we can come to some bipartisan support on that, I think that would be helpful. I also think that approaching, Congresswoman, as you said, some of these very nuanced areas like deepfakes, data is out there that seniors are thinking that their grandchildren are calling them for money, and when a senior's economic viability is compromised, that's worse for the whole family. So I think going into those verticals where there is bipartisan agreement is another area. We've seen that with the Take It Down Act in terms of anything that has to do with any manipulated content, I think is a step forward. But I do also think that we have to reimagine what it looks like in terms of regulatory framework that has some guidance and guardrails, which I'd be happy to share with your office in more detail.
That's great. I look forward to working with you on this. And we have a bill as well that I've worked with Representative Flood on. It is the Preventing Deepfake Scams Act. And this is important because, our agencies are only able to take on what we're directing them to do. And so when we look at trying to change with the times, to make sure that they have the support they need to address the challenges that we're facing now, can you speak to the greater coordination needed between the regulators, the industry, and the subject matter experts to develop strategies to protect financial institutions and consumers from fraud using AI?
I sure can if no one else will. I think on the deepfake side, I think the challenge that we have is that because we have multiple agencies with jurisdiction over this particular area, we haven't come up with some shared values and goals on, one, how are we defining this? We've had a lot of conversation, to your point, where we've not necessarily agreed on the copyright area, this digital provenance. The same thing I think is actually gonna go into the deepfake space, where we're looking at extracted video, text, and audio and trying to determine where is this coming from. That's very hard for us to track at this moment, but also coming up with some shared values and goals across the various agencies that are responsible for enforcement over that. I think if we're able to actually get away from some of that fragmentation, we can actually push forward with really good legislation that protects people from clones.
Great, and Mr. Reisman?
Yes, I just wanted to say, to praise in the bill, you've called for specifically bringing together industry and expert stakeholders to talk with regulators and government to try and figure out how to solve these problems together. it's never been more important as the technology moves quickly to have all of these voices in the room to problem solve together.
It seems like we should bring bills to do this for every agency across, sorry, thank you, I yield my time.